I feel like these are the most exhausting couples that I think I've ever seen on this show. Like, exhausting. But if y'all are new here, hit subscribe, do that real quick. Thumbs up the video, get in the comments, share the video, hype the video. Shout out to y'all who have been doing that. And yeah, we're going to get through this. I can't believe I've gotten this far into this season with these couples. When I tell you, watching a lot of these couples go back and forth and argue, it's draining. It's draining. But we're going to get through this because I'm ready to put this season to bed. All right, so we start off with the first couple, essentially, which is Joe and Madison. But before we got to them, we see all the other couples having fun. We get to Joe and Madison, they're not having fun. She's at home on the phone in her room crying to her mom, telling her that Joe had left. As we all know from the end of episode 10, we all know why. But he's back at the apartment now, and she ends up getting off the phone with her mom, and she goes in there with him. But she's telling us and her direct to camera that he pretty much told her about the breakdown that he had at the tux fitting and feeling detached and pretty much telling her that she's not his person and that he would say no if they got to the wedding. So we all knew that. He been knew that. It's just like he finally decided to do it, which he did the same thing he did the last time he was engaged. But she comes out and they hug, they sit down, and she's like, I'm confused. Like, why did you let me go wedding dress shopping if you knew this? Which is like, yeah, because he knew. We all know that he knew that he didn't want to be with her the minute that he saw her. When he first saw her, that's when we all saw, like, yeah, this is not going to work. We all knew that. He knew that. But he then says that he just had a rough time at the tux fitting, and that was his breaking point. And he said that he wanted to pretty much follow as long as he could, but he got to the point now where he knows. I'm like, but you been knew that, Joe. You been knew that. But he then says that I think that you can still love somebody knowing that they're not the right person for you. Yes, that is true, but you been knew that. But she starts asking what's missing, and he was like, I mean, I don't have the answer. She said, so you have no reasons, like no reasons at all? He said, I could just feel it because you already knew. But she then says, I want to know why it's wrong. You're not giving me clarity. If not me, who and why? What is it about me that's not working? I was like, we got to. The pick me shit that's going on this season is crazy. I understand wanting clarity, like on Madison's end. I understand wanting to know, like what really, but it's like, how did you not know that? Like the signs were very clear throughout y'all's entire journey getting out of the pies. Like there's a lot of things there that were showing you that he was not wanting to be with you. Like you not being his physical type. Not only that, the whole incident that happened in Cabo when he was doing everything but showing you attention, ignoring you. Then when you got to caring for him, he started playing in your face. Then you're crying, he could care less. And in the same situation, like his apprehension of wanting to date you, or not date you, wanting to be married to you. There's a lot of things that just were right there in Madison's face and she just wasn't seeing. So I'm like, how are you not seeing this and how do you not know why he feels that way? But she then states that it's interesting because it's coming off the heels of us pretty much going out with the singles and whatnot. So is there like any single that you might have possibly wanted to explore? He says absolutely not. Me personally, I feel like if Allie was single and he was single, I guarantee you he probably would have tried to get to know her. Because on paper, in my opinion, Allie is his type. But she then asked if he would be okay with like her being with somebody else, with him seeing her with somebody else. And he says, I mean, that's not a thought that I would like to think about because you don't care. You don't care. Like, it doesn't bother you. But she then says the thought of him being with somebody makes her feel sick. We know that. We know that. But he then says, like, the holding and touching you feels good. Doing that with you feels good. And she was like, I mean, knowing that we're not going to be able to do that anymore, that just sucks. So she starts crying. And she's still asking him, like, what is it? He just don't like you. That's really what it is. He's just not telling you that. But it's clear as day that he just don't like you. I don't know why these people need just to hear that. Like, y'all got to start watching people. Like, body language, the way people move, sometimes tell you better than words can. Like, I don't understand it. But she didn't ask if they were to just date in the real world without marriage. Does he think that it would have worked? I said no, because he would have never came up to you in the first place. You're not his physical type. Y'all meeting the way y'all did here, not seeing each other, gave y'all the opportunity to connect more so on an internal level. Whereas if y'all were to do this in real time, he wouldn't have done. And that's what he says. He says, I feel like, what did he say? He says, I'm not freaked out about the entire, because she started talking about the timeline and stuff about how like marriage is what she feels is what's pretty much making him want to not do it. And he's like, I'm not freaked out about the timeline. I just feel like we've made it further than we have in real life. And that's because he never would have talked to her in real life. That's really what it is. Like I said, the physicality, as he told us, she's not the thin girl. She's too thick for him. So that's why. That's really what it is. But she asked why, and he said that he wouldn't have gotten to know her that deep. She then starts, she's still not getting it though. She's still not getting it, but she then says, "You can't tell me a problem." And he says, "It's just not right. Like, it's just not right for us to be together." But she then starts crying about being heartbroken and how he's breaking her heart. And she asks if he even cares, because she's sitting there crying and he's sitting there smirking, stating that he does care, but it's clear he don't care. But she starts breaking down even more, clearly wanting to be consoled. He could care less. And he then says, "I mean, I just know that you're not the one. Like, I just know you're not the one for me," essentially. So she then talks about her heart being broken again, and she feels like she's dying on the inside. She continues to cry, takes off her ring. He looked completely unbothered when she did that. And she's like, "You don't even care. You don't even care. If you cared, you would hug me." So he was like, "I mean, I can." And she was like, "No, it's fine. Fuck it. I'm just sitting here dying inside and you're just sitting there watching." I said, "So do you want him to hug you or do you not?" Like, it's clear she wants him to, but she doesn't want to have to tell him to do it. She wants him to naturally do that. But the fact that he's not naturally doing that, watching you cry, proves that he don't care. He don't care, but she still don't. For some reason, it's like she don't understand it. I guess she needs to hear it, but you could tell she knows, but she just needs to hear it. But they start packing up their shit and whatever. But he's telling the cameras that he's relieved. He feels like he got a big weight lifted off his shoulders, and he came in here looking for love, but it makes him sad that it didn't work out with the whole family thing. Thinking about having a family with her, kids, marriage, all of that stuff, he would have been miserable. I said, "But you knew that though. You knew that though. So why?" Like, when you're in the pod, well, I was gonna say, when you're in the pod, you're thinking about that, but he didn't know what she looked like. But he then says that he just wants to have a good life with somebody that he wants to be with every day, and she just wasn't it. I said, "So why couldn't you tell her that? Why couldn't you just sit there and tell her that?" But maybe he wanted to spare her feelings because she's already distraught as it is. But like, she's still gonna see this on TV. And have they filmed? I don't think they filmed the reunion yet. That's gonna be interesting to see. That's gonna be interesting to see. But she talks about she can barely breathe. He's sitting there packing, could care less. She talking about she gonna throw up. But she then cries, thanking him for being on her journey, even though she's mad at him. They hug one last time. He leaves, and she's crouched down on the ground crying. So we're now 4 days out from the wedding, and we move to KB and Edmond. They're out motor skiing. Buckle up, y'all. Buckle up. So they get to the top of the mountain. They have a beautiful view. Beautiful one. But you can tell, as soon as they got off the motor ski, you could tell the energy was off. Like, I was like, something happened. Something happened. But she goes to get them hot chocolate. She comes back, and he's already sitting down looking at the view. And he's giving her, or she's giving him the hot chocolate. He takes it and says, "Thank you." And she's trying to get down. He doesn't help her down. So she says, "Thanks for the help. Like, thank you for trying to help me, even though you're not doing it." But she then sits down and she starts talking about the incident that happened that was off camera. So she says, "It's crazy how you sit there in the car being dismissive, and then when the cameras come out, you acting all happy and cheesy. Basically, you act different when the cameras come on." She says that you're not the same person that you are off camera, on camera. I said, "So why are you still dealing with this?" Like, I cannot feel bad for her when she constantly, like I said, and this is just with anybody. I can never feel bad for somebody that constantly puts them in a situation that they know they're going to be upset with, knowing that and continuing to do that. Like, you could have easily walked away. So she then starts talking about how they be getting into it because of the remarks that he be making. And when they get on camera, he turns it on and starts acting like everything's all good. But she be sitting there because she can't hide the fact that she's feeling some type of way. She ain't fake. She can't fake the funk. So she goes back into pretty much talking about, let's address the issue. Same conversation they always have. I said, if y'all keep having the same conversation, and when I say the same conversation, the same start and finish, like, the outcome is always the same. So at this point, why are you still continuing to do this? But she then says that he was informed of pretty much his bachelorette party being Western themed, and he didn't want it. He was like, "I ain't doing it, I ain't doing it, I ain't doing it." So she tried calming him down. He cut her off. She said, "You weren't even looking at me. You were very dismissive, and you weren't apologizing, and that sucks. So how can I communicate with somebody like that?" So she then starts talking about, she starts crying. She starts crying about being tired. And I said, "You're not getting paid to do this." And like a lot of people online have been stating, like I've been thinking, like a lot of people have stated in their recaps, it's like she's trying her best to fix him. like her job, like being a social worker. So it's like she's trying to put that social work hat on when this is your relationship. Like, you don't have to do this. Nobody's paying you to be here trying to fix this relationship. Like, if it's not going to work, it's not going to work. And it's clear it's not going to work. But I'm like, if you're so tired, then leave. But she then says that she can't force him to want to grow up. Exactly. Exactly. So why are you trying to make a grown man grow up? If he's not going to grow up, he's not going to grow up. That's not the man for you. But she then says that the guys that she was talking to in the pods, the guy that she was talking to in the pods, and also the first couple of days at Cabo, that's the one she fell in love with. She don't know who this person is now, but she says that I love you through the good and bad, but I won't accept the bad when you sit here and dismiss me. But she says there's certain things that she will get over, but certain things like this she won't get over with if he doesn't hold himself accountable. But he says that I swear I didn't do anything wrong to you, but I'm sorry for you taking what I did wrong to you. I was confused when I watched it the first time. I had to keep rewinding it back until I put subtitles on to then see and understand what he was stating, because I couldn't understand what he was stating just looking at it. But he stated that he essentially don't feel like he did anything wrong, and he's sorry that she's taking whatever he did as something that was wrong to her. Basically, he don't see anything that he did wrong, and he's only apologizing because she's hurt by whatever it is. But he then talks about being in a good mood, being outside and out there looking at the view and whatnot. And she was like, but you just told me. And he cuts her off and says, I mean, I'm not in a good mood knowing that your feelings are hurt and your feelings are everything to me, and it messed up my feelings. I said, here we go. Here we go. So she's now tweaking out because he knew that he knew how she was feeling in the car, but then pretty much got on the cameras and started acting completely different. And she's like sitting there telling him, like, stop being fake, stop acting oblivious, like stop acting like you don't know why I'm upset. But he didn't ask why she's yelling, because she is yelling at this point. And she was like, you just make me frustrated, you just minimize shit, which he does, but you maximize shit in a situation where you know what you're getting from him. So it's like she's expecting so much from him that he's just not going to give her. And that's why you look silly in the end. But he then says that I'm so happy about being on this snowmobile for the first time. He could care less about what she's really got going on. But she says, and I can't even enjoy it because you want to apologize when I've been sitting here asking you the last 3 weeks to be accountable. I said, listen to what you just said. I've been asking for you to be accountable the last 3 weeks. And it's the same thing that happens every single time, and you still get the same result. He's not holding himself accountable because guess what? He doesn't see anything that he's doing wrong. So at that point, why are you still here, KB? Why? But he then says, like, you want me to apologize to you, and she says for something that you're not sorry for. I said, exactly. So why are you trying to force it out of him? So she then says that I feel, if I feel some type of way, you don't give a fuck. Only if it's Edmund that's feeling some type of way. He says, that's not true. She says, you just said that you're not apologetic, even though you know it was dismissive. I said, he never said that he thought it was dismissive. One thing that I remember him stating and continuing to drive it home, he don't feel like he did anything wrong. He doesn't feel like he did anything that was dismissive. So he never said that it was. But he then talks about how he, when he does apologize, he means it. When he does apologize, she cuts him off and he asks, let me finish. He said, right now, I'm not going to say sorry to you. She says, I don't want it. I said, yes, you do. Like, that's the whole reason. That's why you're doing this right now. But he says the only reason why I won't, she cuts him off again. I said, let him speak. Because even though he be saying a lot of stuff, and sometimes when he be saying stuff, it literally is a bunch of nothing. But like in this moment in time, I did want to hear what he had to say. But she kept cutting him off. But she says, there's nothing to be sorry about. What are you apologizing for in this moment? I said, I am so confused. Because what do you mean there's nothing to be sorry about? Because you claim that he was being dismissive. And that's what you wanted him to own up to and say, okay, well, I'm sorry for dismissing your feelings. But now there's nothing to be apologizing. These couples, I'm telling you, my head. But he then tells her he's done nothing wrong to her. He said, if I did, you wouldn't be still sitting here. I said she's with you because she thinks you're a part of her job. Like she thinks you're her project. Like she's doing her job and you are her work. But she says I always just swallow shit at this point. He says you can stop swallowing stuff. And she says that she will. She says I'm fighting for something that you're clearly not. And he says, okay. And he says he's not apologizing if he doesn't feel like he's in the wrong because she's going to think that he's not serious. And she's going to know that he's not serious. And I said, I agree with him on this. Because if you don't feel like you did anything wrong, don't apologize. Because if you apologize knowing or at least feeling that you didn't do anything wrong, you're manipulating her. because you don't mean it. So why say it? I'm glad he did. And I was glad he was standing on it because I was like, if you don't feel like you did anything wrong, don't apologize. I know you're supposed to be taking her feelings into account. You definitely can state that. You can say, I'm sorry that you feel that way. But to be completely honest with you, I don't feel like I did anything wrong, honestly. But he says that he wants to say sorry so that she can essentially just have that because that's what he knows. He knows that's what she wants. But he also knows that if he says that, not being sorry, he knows that she'll know that he's not serious about it. But she says, I never want you to just say it for me to hear it. He says, well, that's what I'm doing right now. You're not. But she says, you ain't even tell me sorry. And I'm just sitting here like, I'm so sick of these two. I'm just sick of all these couples. They're annoying to watch. But she then starts going in on him about him cutting her off when she's talking. And he says what I was thinking. You literally have sat here and cut him off this whole time. Like, both of y'all do it. Both of y'all do it. But she then says, stop fucking... KB, you completely lost me here. She said, stop fucking talking to me, bitch. She said, you're not letting me talk. I said, you done called this man out his name and called him a bitch? I said, now, if he completely cuts her off and shuts off from her, I'm not mad at it because he ain't called you out your name yet. Like, that was crazy. She then says, this is how you bring me out of my character. You know how to push me. And you just be doing this shit. So if he does that and you know that's what he does, then why are you still there? But he's sitting there silent, just looking at her. He just sitting there looking at her, but he eventually gets up and walks off as he should have. Like I wrote down in these notes, they do not need to get to the wedding. They don't need to have a wedding. Like, this couple does not need to get married. But of course, we know they're going to get married. Well, they're at least going to have the wedding. But Allie and Anton, they're at home with her mom. Her and her mom are speaking what I believe Portuguese. I know, at least from what I remember. Brazilians, don't they speak Portuguese? I know it's not Spanish. I believe it's Portuguese. Y'all correct me if I'm wrong. But they're talking about Naira, which at the time I didn't know who it was, but this is her sister, pretty much not supporting Allie. I want to know exactly what made this happen. But her mom pretty much states that Allie and Naira were pretty much super close growing up, but when they became teenagers, it got different. I wonder what, though. But her mom pretty much states that she asked her sister to give Allie a chance because it's her wedding. But the conversation didn't go over well. Allie's like, that's what hurts. And her mom was like, you do have two more sisters, though, but I know she's special to you. And Allie's like hoping that maybe once she meets Anton, it could change things. But her mom was like, she's stubborn. Like, good luck. But Anton arrives and meets her mom. Anton talks about his drives and his goals, his ambitions. And her mom talks about how, like, it's important to have ambitions, which it is. Like, if you, and that's with me, with people, I don't surround myself with people that don't have things going for them. Like, me personally, I've always been that way. Friends, family, if you're okay with just living life like this, stagnant, no improvement, no growth, I'm not dealing with it. Like, I surround myself with people that are working towards something themselves to keep me aligned with working with what I want for myself. So that also, I feel like, is important in relationships. But he then talks about how being raised Russian in the Russian tradition, the man of the household is supposed to be the man of the household. Like, you're supposed to be top dog. You're supposed to take care of everything. And he's like, I will support her in all her endeavors. But it does have to be a team effort in a marriage, which I do believe. But the mom was like, yeah, I mean, it's important as a Brazilian woman that the man doesn't essentially miss all of these big moments as a woman, like the day y'all met, birthdays, Mother's Day. She's talking about all of that type of stuff. But her mom pretty much states, too, that divorces happen when you choose your friends over her. Like, don't go to the bar with your friends and leave your wife at home. I said, not entirely. I see what she's trying. I see both sides, essentially. I see what she's stating, but I feel like it's very important, too, to not just be like this all the time with your spouse. Like, it is important to spend a lot of time and a good amount of time with your spouse. But I feel like it's also important to have a life outside of that. Because when you're just only that and completely move like that without anything else going on outside, having your own friends, being able to get out and go have fun with your friends, I feel like that's important. Because when you leave your friends, you're excited to come back home to your spouse. So I do feel like that's important. But she then states, if you go somewhere, you have to go together. Not all the time. I don't believe you always have to be together all the time. But her mom seems very traditional. But her mom also then talks about how Allie essentially needs to do some housework. And of course, Anton loved hearing that. That is true. But her mom then wishes them the best and pretty much states that they will have her support. We then see Megan and Jordan. They're out getting hats. And she talks about looking at more houses and whatnot. And he says that, you know how I feel about it. Like, you know how I feel like when we see a house, the house that's going to be the right one is going to be the one that I feel and we both will feel will be the one that's for us. But she then says that the one that she saw today was in a good school district, but it just had a weird layout. She didn't really like it. But she then starts talking about how she's into numerology. I believe that's how you pronounce it. I don't know. Y'all know what I'm talking about if you watched it. She talks through the logic. I'm not getting into it because I was like Jordan. I was getting lost. But he then says that, are you going to let this make or break you buying a house? And she was like, no, I'm not going to let it make it or break it, but I'm definitely going to consider it. But they start talking about the tux that he got. They start talking about the things that they like most about Jordan and least like about him too. But KB and Edmund, they're at home. Well, she's at home. He comes walking in with flowers for her, and he's pretty much apologizing. He's apologizing for ignoring her in the car, talking to the person that was driving instead of talking to her. He says that it's very sincere. He says he's been thinking and reflecting, and he just doesn't want to lose her. He apologizes for minimizing her emotions. You can tell she's eating it up. She then says that there was a moment on that mountain where she wanted to take her ring off and throw it. You can tell he felt a little deflated. But she then says, like, I've been battling on if I have more to give to this. And he then tells her, like, you're the only one that I would want to do this with. You changed me into the best man that I can be. I said, you still look like the same man that we've seen you to be. But he then tells her that she's doing everything right for him. But she then says that he gave her hope because of the apology and the flowers, and she appreciates him holding himself accountable because that's what she needed. That's all I needed from you. I was working on patience. I've been working on patience. I've never been patient until I met somebody like you. I said, you haven't when you're a social worker, but okay. But she then says that she says she's not the type of girl that cusses you out. She says, I'm not that type of woman. That's not me. She does apologize for calling him out of his name, cussing him out. And she was like, that was wrong. So good for you. But she then states that you just might not see it, but you have changed me for the better. And I don't want you to feel like I gave up on you. Y'all need to give up on this relationship respectfully. Y'all can love each other, but y'all are not meant to be together, honestly, in my opinion. But Allie and Anton, they're out in the snow. They're recapping their experience, talking about how they're excited for the wedding. They talk about how similar they are. He then talks about pretty much telling her, like, if you say yes to me when we get married, I want you to be 1000% sure that you're going to do that. But they start talking about changing for the better. He talks about how he's pretty much believed in working on himself and not giving up. He talks about, too, how they're never going to really be the perfect person. Like, nobody's ever going to be the perfect person. It's just about the effort that you put into your relationship. And as long as both parties are mutually putting in the same amount of effort, it can be done. Like, it can be done. And I do believe in that. Like, as long as in a relationship, both of y'all are actually working towards making the relationship stay strong, there's going to be moments where it's not always perfect. Like, there's going to be moments where y'all disagree. Y'all going to have arguments. Y'all are going to have disagreements. But as long as y'all both keep the main thing, which is being together, loving each other, positively loving each other, you'll be fine. I'm stating this to somebody as if I was married. I'm not married, but I just got common sense. Like, we all know what works in relationships, and that's just platonic too. Like, as friends and stuff, like, as long as both of y'all are committed to actually being friends, it's gonna work. Same thing with a marriage. But she talks about how she stuck around in relationships that she knew weren't right because she essentially wanted to see it through, but it's a thin line between something that you can work towards or if it's a waste of time. That's also true too. Like, she's like, it's a hard thing to know, but when you see the signs that are very clear that you need to get up out of there, you need to get up out of there. That's just really what it is. But KB and Edmund, they're out skating too. This was nice because you can tell this is where he's happy. Like, you could tell just watching the little scenes of him just skating around. You can tell this makes him happy, and I love that for him, honestly. Now, we get to the final scene, which is Megan and Jordan at home. The lifestyles literally started to really... You could tell, like, through this conversation, Megan was realizing our lifestyles really are not going to work together. It was very clear. And they start packing, and the energy was off immediately. And she starts talking about how she needs more stimulation from him than one-word conversation. So basically, their communication, I don't want to say communication, it just seems like they have surface level conversations now. At least that's what it seems like from what she's stating. But he said, just say it, like, what is your issue? But she then says, like, the conversations are next to nothing at this point. I need more from you. And he was like, I mean, I feel like you do it in an abrasive fashion. Like, you stating this stuff, I feel like you do it in an abrasive fashion. But he then says, I would like you to be more compassionate with my situation. And I feel like you're telling me that I'm not allowed to be tired. She says, I'm not saying that. So he states that she stated that she don't like him pretty much telling her all the time that he's tired. And she was like, I mean, I'm tired too, but that's not an excuse, essentially. He says it isn't. I just don't think that we're in the same boat. I feel like your boat was a lot bigger than mine. That's them lifestyles. She lives a very lavish lifestyle. It seems she definitely got money, but she ain't got no kids. He seemingly has a very, very taxing job, which, as we all know, her money and his money are not the same money. So he's having to work for his money. Not only that, he has a child. Yes, it's split 50-50 from what we've heard from him with the baby mom and him, but he also has a child. So when he gets off work, and he seems to have worked 10-hour days where it's a lot of talking, then he has to get off work. And depending on the day, he has a son, which with your child, that comes entertaining that child, taking care of that child. That takes energy that you might not have from that 10-hour day. So that's when you had to start thinking about that stuff when it comes to relationship and marriage, because he is going to be tired. And there's going to be times where he don't want to talk because he has been talking the whole time. There's going to be times where she's going to want to talk because she don't have all of that shit going on in her life that he does. That's where it's going to be. None of these couples are going to make it. But he says, I understand you worked hard to get in the position that you are in life. I just don't want to project my daily stresses onto you. She says, I told you I want to learn that side of you because I know that's a big part of your life. You go through work and that's what your day is. I want to know what your day is. I want you coming home telling me about X, Y, and Z at your job and whatnot. I want to hear that type of stuff. And he says, I mean, I want to sometimes just come home, sit down and watch a movie with you and whatever. I don't know if that's a deal breaker for you or not. And she's like, that's not. Like, if you're doing it every now and then, like, we don't have to do that every day. But she says she struggles with it because their relationship in the pods was based off of their conversations, like him making her laugh and stuff. That's not what they have going on in the or outside of the pods. And he says that's not, we're not in the pods anymore, which is true. When you sit and think about it, they had all the time in the world to do that. And he didn't have the stresses of his job. He didn't have his son there to take care of in that moment in time. So he had all the time in the world. He had all the energy to give you. So whenever you get out in the real world and see what's really up in real life and how it really works, you're going to see, I might not have all that energy for you, which is, it's going to be a problem when it comes to a relationship if you don't understand it. But he then says the last thing that he wants to do is having an abrasive conversation or feeling like she's not appreciating him. She says, I hear you. And as she's stating this, you can see all up in her face that she's thinking. She's like, oh shit, I don't know if this is the lifestyle I'm gonna be able to live. We all know that though. We all knew that. But he then states that he doesn't think that she is hearing him. I tell you that I'm tired and you don't listen. His voice, you can tell he's tired. Like he's drained talking about it. And you can tell like he sounds like he's about to start crying. But he says that I feel like I'm getting shit on for being tired and I don't think that that's fair. He then says too that I need you to essentially be my backbone, not something that makes me even more tired. She's still sitting there processing it. She says, and then apologizes for getting on him. She says, that's fine. I'm not telling you that it's anything wrong, but I just didn't get that that's how it was going to be. I don't know how you didn't, but okay. But she then says that when there's nothing to distract us, are we just gonna be sitting here staring at each other? And he says, sometimes yes. I talk to people 10 hours a day. I was like, here we go. She says, well, I don't. And he says, do you want a job? And of course they both start laughing. That was funny. But she then says, I just want to have conversations with you. Like if it could be about your job, it could be about that. I just want to know how your day is. Like I want to talk to you about stuff like that. Just talk about things. And he was like, she said too, I want you to ask me how my day is too. And he was like, I mean, I do. And she was like, yeah, I know, but I'm just constantly on the go. I'm doing this. I'm going to LA one day. I'm going up to Aspen with friends one day. Your lifestyle is a lot more flexible than his, which is where it's like this. It's just the more this conversation went on, the more if you didn't already think that they weren't meant to be together, this right here showed y'all really are not meant to be together. Y'all's lifestyles are just completely different. It's just completely different. You can love that person, but certain things are just not going to make sense for a relationship. But I skipped through a little bit of this, but he then states that how do you think life will be with kids? Like essentially, you're gonna have to slow down your life. You can't always be ripping and running, which, like I stated last night. But I know you have means to have a nanny, but I want to be hands on. I don't want a nanny raising my kid, big respects to you, big respects to you. But in those instances, if you do want to have, but what I do feel this too. You do need. I can't talk. You do need to prioritize like date nights in a marriage and in a relationship too. Like when you have kids, you gotta make the main thing the main thing. Y'all being together is also the main thing, and y'all's bond apart from the kid also matters too. Y'all can't just be that with the kid. Like y'all have to still keep what y'all have without the child. So he's gonna have to change that too, but I don't know. But they start talking about the lifestyle differences, and he was like, I mean, you picked me for me, not my lifestyle. I said yes, but then again, the lifestyles do matter when y'all are outside of the pods. So I don't know. I don't see any of these couples lasting. I'm pretty sure we might get a marriage next week, but I'm very interested in seeing where these couples are today, in present day, like a year later. I do want to see. But if y'all got this far and haven't already, what you doing? Give me it. It's free of charge. Also go down there and hype the video. Hype it. Share the video. Subscribe if you're new. We're on the road to 15K. Yeah, I'll see y'all next week. We got 1 episode. We done made it to the 1 episode a week. Love it. I can relax. Peace.